All right, so I'm back at my house now, and I got a much better camera setup, so that's nice. But at the end of the last video that I took, I put up my hand at the last second. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I have some stitches in my hand. I actually have one in that hand too. And I just wanted to go over why I have stitches in my hand. I figured it'd be a good way to kind of segue into my first video. And I think that there are some good lessons that came from this because it was from a dog. I got bit by a dog. Surprisingly enough, it was a Labrador Retriever. Now, I'm actually kind of glad that it was a lab because it proves a point, proves more of a point, and that'll make more sense when I explain what I'm talking about towards the end. But let's talk about why this happened. So I've done some training sessions with this dog. I probably had about 4 sessions with him, and maybe 5 sessions, and the clients, they enjoy doing it, especially the mom did, and I've always had a great time working with them, but our training sessions were pretty scattered out, and I've never been a fan of that because that creates inconsistency in training. I've always liked to have sessions once a week for a period of time so I can continue to progress my clients along, working towards their desired goals little by little. But when you're kind of just doing sessions every once in a while, there's not as much of like a focused goal in mind, and that tends to create less consistency in the dog's training. So there's that, and so this dog has always been really nice. He's always been a great dog. He has been a very stubborn dog. He is unneutered, and that doesn't play a huge role. It can play some of a role, but that's easy to work through. That's not a big deal. And this dog has never displayed any, signs of aggression. It's just always been a nice, happy-go-lucky puppy. They've had it ever since it was little. And yeah, so he's always been a great dog, and I have this thing where dogs come over to my house, and I do this thing. We're pretty much, I created a dog park at my place in my backyard, but it's a structured dog park. I don't really like dog parks because there's no guidance there. It's kind of just like a free-for-all, and people kind of hope for the best, that all the other dogs are going to be well behaved, and a lot of times that doesn't go exactly how they would hope it to go. And so I created this place where I can have dogs socialize safely, and these are more so dogs that are they're reactive to other dogs, specifically leash reactive. So while they're on walks, they bark at each other, they lunge at each other. A lot of those dogs tend to get sent to my socialization camp, is what I call it, or training camp. And so that way I can help get them acclimated and get them to be okay and comfortable being around other dogs in a way that helps set them up for success. So that way all the dogs get along great. And what I find is that a lot of times dogs aren't mean at all. It looks like they are. They display signs of nervousness, and it looks like aggression maybe sometimes, but or maybe they display signs of frustration and it looks like aggression, but almost most of the time that's not the case. They're usually just there's usually some other reason why they're being reactive to other dogs. But anyways, so I had this dog come over, and owners mentioned that he had been having diarrhea in its crate the night before, but other than that, everything has been pretty normal up until that point. And so we let him come over because he seemed pretty normal other than that. And there wasn't any other issues at the time, at least, or at least as far as what I knew of. And so the dog comes over and he starts, I'm walking him around the yard and he starts to just stop and he doesn't want to follow me on the leash. And when I start saying, like, hey, let's go, let's just keep walking, and I give a little tug on the leash, he looks at me and he starts like showing his teeth and growling at me. I'm like, okay, this is not the dog that I know. This is a new behavior that I've never seen from this dog. Not sure why he's doing this, but I'm not going to just let him continue to do what he wants and go his own route, because he was doing that so that way he could go sniff another dog or go pee on something, because he's an unneutered male and that's what they do. He wanted to go do something else, and so I said, no, we're gonna continue walking. I'm really not asking anything ridiculous of you. We're just gonna continue walking. And so we do that. I have to add a little bit of pressure in order to keep him coming, but I also talk to him and try to motivate him to continue coming, and he does that maybe like a few times with the growling and showing teeth, and then it, little by little, he mellows out as he realizes that, it's really not that bad following Kevin around. And I'm petting him and I'm right next to him. He's right at my side and everything's fine. He's calm. And so he's not a dog that I can leave out of the crate because he makes bad decisions. And so after working with him for a little bit, I had to put him in a crate so I can go do things with other dogs. And I went to go put him in a crate, but I forgot to take off his leash. And I should have done that beforehand. But in general, it's not a big deal when you take a leash off of a dog while they're in the crate, especially for dogs who have never shown any signs of aggression before. Especially this dog specifically, because I've known him and nothing has ever given him a reason to do anything like that. So I put him in the crate, forget to take off his leash. I go to take off his leash. I put like both of my hands in there. And to him, that could have looked like he's backed up in a corner. He's getting pressure put on him by me bringing my hands towards him. Maybe that looked like someone hurting him in the past. I don't know. I'm not saying that is the case, but it gave him enough reason to want to bite me. And it was just a quick bite, which is why I have both hands bit. But yeah, he kind of got the fleshy part of my palm right here and sliced it open. That was the good one. This one was more of like a pressure bite, and so this one actually hurt more because it was more of like a chomping bite, and this one was more of like a slash. But yeah, so it's just unexpected, and so that begs the question, why did it happen? And this is the interesting part. This is where I think we can learn something from this. So after I, talked to the owners about this is after I got stitched up and everything, I was asking, what's been going on with your dog? A lot of times when things like this happen, it's because there's a lot of stressors in the dog's life that build up, it's like one stressor on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, and then the last little thing that adds a little bit more stress can be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So it's not necessarily that the last thing was some huge event. It's just that's what it took to get the dog to spill over and to go into this mode where he's just not himself. And this is what happens with humans too, all the time. You wake up let's say you wake up in the morning, and the first thing that happens is you stub your toe, getting out of the bed because your dog's bone is on the floor and you didn't see it or something. Stressor number one. You go to the bathroom, and then you look at your phone, and your phone, somebody texts you with bad news. I don't know, something bad happens, and that's your second stressor. Let's say you start to go to work and you get into a little fender bender. It's not much, it's just a little ding, but it's still another stressor. Later on, something happens at work, a client doesn't act the way that you wanted them to, and maybe they're rude to you or something, another stressor. All these things are starting to pile on top of each other. Let's say you finally get home and you get to your wife, your wife is making you dinner or something, and your dinner isn't cooked properly or something. There's some little thing about your dinner that isn't right, and that's the thing that you're just like, I've had it, and that makes you blow up, and maybe you get angry at your spouse or your significant other, and you take it out on them, and they're wondering, why is it that the way that I cook the food is bothering you so much? What is it about my food that is making you so angry? But really, that has nothing to do with it at all. It was all these stressors leading up to it. And so it's really important to make sure that as we go on with our day, that we are, when we encounter these stressors, that we don't continue on with our day and let another stressor pile up on top of it. We should take care of that stressor, and we should make sure that we take a few minutes to kind of reset ourselves, to get ourselves back to a calm state of mind and a better way of thinking. Maybe you take a few minutes to do some breath work or something, and to slow down your heart rate, and just do something to help put you back in a better, more balanced spot, so that way when you get to the next stressor in your day, it's not adding on top. It's essentially just another one that you have to kind of reset from again. And then you go on to the next stressor, and you get stressed out a little bit, but then you reset from that. As long as you take time to reset and make sure you do what you need to do to put yourself in a more relaxed, calm mental state, then these stressors are less likely to add up, and you're less likely to have that blow up moment. So for this dog, he shouldn't have came to the daycare or to the training camp, to the socialization. That was one extra thing, because this dog, what I found out later on, is that he had so many things happening in his life before all this happened. He had a lot of change going on. There's a lot of stuff going on at his house. Like the parents were going on vacation a bunch. They were having work done at their house. The dog wasn't getting exercised at all. It wasn't getting played with. It wasn't getting any of its needs met, other than just, being fed and going to the bathroom, stuff like that, the basics. But, there was no training being done, so there was no structure in this dog's life. And all these things, all these stressors added to, once he came here, then, having to deal with doing more training, which he wasn't ready for yet. I didn't know that. I thought he, was doing fine, and I really wasn't asking much of him other than just follow me around on the leash for a little bit. And but that was enough to set him over the top. And yeah, so just, I guess moral of the story is to keep in check how you're feeling in that moment, and make sure that you're resetting back to zero and only continuing on with the rest of your day if you are able to do that. I know that's not always doable, like you can't always just stop everything that you're doing to go do some yoga or something, but be mindful of it and try as much as possible, and it's a lot more likely that you're gonna have a lot more peace in your life, a lot less stress build up, and yeah, I guess that's the moral of the story is don't let things build up. Catch them before they lead into bigger things. Catch them when you first start to see these little bits of stress, and reset. So in the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I was kind of glad that this was a Labrador Retriever, and I want to explain why that is. And the reason why I said that is because this can happen to anybody. This could be like the nicest person in the world who treats everyone so fairly. And then all of a sudden, that person has this huge blow up that is just totally out of character. It's very easy to look at people and say, hey, like, look what this guy is doing wrong. Like, why is this guy acting like this? Look at this guy being ridiculous. It's really easy to look at things like that, but that's just surface level behaviors. That's not what's really going on. And you know, a Labrador Retriever is just like your typical family dog, you know, very, in general, nice dogs, great family dogs, in general, just very happy-go-lucky dogs. And you tend to not see too many huge issues come from them. But you can have this ideal breed. You can have this ideal person, and if you put them in situations where stress just continues to build and build on top of each other, it will lead into something bigger, a bigger blow up. And a lot of times that's not good, it's not healthy, and we should try to avoid these things at all costs, whether we're talking about a dog or whether we're talking about a person. But so next time you see someone acting out of character, don't just judge those surface behaviors. Maybe go up to them and ask them, hey, is there something that I can help out with? Maybe there's something deeper that's going on in that person's life, and maybe they need someone like you to just check on them, see how they're feeling. Anyways, I hope that makes sense. You know, I'll probably get better at explaining things through these videos as I do them more, but that's what I'm taking from this. And so I hope you guys are able to take something from it too. You guys have a great day. Take care. See you soon. Peace.